Vesna, thank you so much for joining us here on Spark TV. It's so good to have you.
It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And I already know this is going to be a good chat because we've already spent 10 minutes before I hit record chatting about business and marketing and all those good things. So very excited. Why don't we start out just by telling everyone who you are and what you do?
So my name is Vesna Hrsto and I'm a naturopath, executive wellbeing coach and mind-body peak performance specialist. So I really work with high achievers, women in business, professional women, executives to kind of go from anywhere between burnout back to peak performance. Yeah.
Amazing. And how did you get into this? Has this always been your career path? Were there other jobs? Like where did this come from?
Well, I knew I wanted to be a naturopath since I was about 15 years old.
Cool.
And so I did that. And then I went into naturopathic clinic immediately. And I didn't really specialize in anything, but I saw everything, right? And so had a very busy practice, got burnt out.
Uh-oh.
Started my journey and was really stuck in this place of burnout for a long time. And even though I did the right things, like what anyone else, like normally when I have women come to me, either they don't know what to do or they've tried everything like I did, take the supplements, have more rest, eat well, and just not feeling better. Right. And so I was stuck in that place for about 5 years. And so for me, it was an interesting journey to see that there's so much more to it that affects or pushes us into burnout, but then also affects, us reaching peak performance. So even if you're not burnt out, there are things that you can do to really kind of shift yourself up into peak performance. And, I got into that because I love working with driven people. And they're so, I don't know, they're so easy to work with, they're inspiring to work with, and they have, great things that they want to do in the world. And they need to have their health, their energy, their rational mind in place, their resilience in order to do what they need to do. So I got into it by my own journey. And then I love working with the people that are going through the same process.
So you mentioned that you were sitting in burnout for 5 years, doing all of the right things in inverted commas for people listening.
Yeah.
What actually happened? What was the transformation? I assume everyone's different. I assume that the reason why it doesn't work or didn't work was because everybody is different. But what actually was your transformation point? How did you get yourself out of burnout?
So it was really looking at, so it's not just a physical piece. There is the mental and emotional stress, which is most of our stress. So whether you're stuck in a job that, you don't love, or in your business, you have financial stress, or whether you have relationship stress, or whatever it is, you've got too much, you've got an overwhelming schedule, whatever the stress is coming from, and I put it in inverted commas because it's not coming from our situations. It's the mental and emotional stress, right? So some people can deal with a lot of things on their plate. Some people cannot.
Yeah.
And that was where the missing piece was. So for me, I felt like business was stressful. Business was really stressful for me. And I just felt like I couldn't get better until, because I was in business, there's lots of demand. And I was helping people with their health and sometimes really sick people. And the pressures of running a business, and it just all felt overwhelming for me. And I just thought that that's the way that it was, right?
Yeah.
Business is hard, business is stressful, but I can see that it's really the thinking that we bring into it is what causes the stress. So yes, we do have challenges to face in our life, in our work, in our business, relationships, families, but it's really what's going on with our mindset that either causes us to stay in stress, therefore break down our body, break down our biochemistry, break down our systems, causing fatigue, anxiety, depression, weight gain, brain fog, right? And so that's the key piece, like really getting a better understanding of kind of our mindset and how we can improve it, how we can use this amazing tool that is our mind in better ways, rather than, stressing, worrying, concern, replaying, overanalyzing, anxiety, all of that.
I mean, it's like hitting a nerve.
Yeah, okay.
because well, I know it's really interesting. So as a business owner myself, or multiple business owner myself, and obviously knowing that everyone listening in either wants to be in business or runs a business, I mean, it is really interesting because I feel like when I'm going through those periods of time where I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling stressed, it is sometimes more about me talking myself off the ledge than anything. Like, it
Yeah.
really is that ability to say, this is easy. This is actually so easy. What you're focusing on is XYZ, and trying to reframe things. And rather than, the type of work or I mean, look, there's definitely, I don't look after myself 100%. So I know the physical stuff is there as well. But I know in my times where I've gotten myself out of stress and overwhelm, it's just been the pep talk in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like, pep talk is one thing, but if it's, people who have demanding schedules and they're in a daily anxiety overwhelm, a place of anxiety and overwhelm, that eventually causes the body to break down. So they need to be able to see that the business challenge from the mental stress, right? Without all that noise in the head.
Yeah.
You would see the problem for the way that it is. And it does. And if you do have a cash flow problem in your business, that needs to be addressed, of course. But without all the noise in the head, it's so much easier.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Like, sometimes the noise in your head is the paralyzing part. Like, you have, so let's take that cash flow issue. I'm sure plenty of people have dealt with cash flow issues if they've been in business. Yeah, me too. So you're right, though. It's like that still needs to be dealt with. That actual problem needs to be dealt with. But when you're sitting in overwhelm and stress, sometimes you can't even take the steps that you need to start solving that problem. Sometimes you do just sit there and stare at your laptop and go, oh my God, what the am I going to do?
Yeah. I mean, the purpose of the stress response is to get us to fight or to flee. And we get all this cortisol, stress hormone, being released in the body. And cortisol, diminishes our prefrontal cortex, which is the area that we get rational thinking, that we can make decisions and judgments. It's our intelligence, right? And that is diminished. So we become very myopic with our thinking. Our view of the world changes. So it becomes very small. And so from that place, it's actually very hard to make the decisions, do the work that we need to do, make the right decisions, right? So often we can make the wrong decisions because we're coming from a place of fear and pressure. And so when you take that away, people operate at a much higher level, even during times of stress. If you look at people in peak performance, like these kind of real peak high achievers, they welcome challenges because it allows them to stretch and grow, right? They have a different perspective. They have been able to separate the situation from the mental stress. They still have the mind never shuts up.
Yeah.
But it's not so much in the forefront, right? They recognize it's part of the journey.
So, I mean, obviously having somebody like you to facilitate this process for a business owner is the quickest way to success. Yeah. However, for people listening in, is there anything like tactical, any practice that we can put into place that might help us? And I'm kind of thinking, so burnout to maybe status quo, and then status quo to peak performance. Like, is there a couple of tips that you have for people that they might be able to incorporate in their day-to-day?
Well, burnout to this kind of middle ground, which a lot of people hover in this middle ground of, not so much burnout, but anxiety, stress, a lot of stress and overwhelm. So to get to that place, like really looking at self-care practices, right? Because that's where you're going to get the biggest gains. Initially, you're going to taking care of yourself, eating well, getting to bed on time, right? Not going to bed late, not living off caffeine to keep you going. Easier said than done sometimes when you're really tired. But as you take care of the body physically, putting the right nutrition in, and resting and recovering, then you're able to have a little bit more perspective on the next steps, right? And so often in burnout, we're tired, we don't have the motivation. Everything looks too hard. It feels too overwhelming. So even taking small steps like, get to bed by 9:30 p.m., 10 p.m.
Yeah, because I feel like sometimes it's a spiral, isn't it? It's like the less energy you have, the less you focus on getting more energy. So you don't.
You're like wired, right? And so the body it's like this. It's like a child that when it's tired, it doesn't want to sleep, right? I feel like that's the adults. That's the adult version, right? Really wired, and they just like keep going.
Yeah.
But, I always say that if I could put sleep into a capsule, it would be the most powerful drug to heal almost anything. Okay. And it really resets the mind, relaxes the nervous system. So we wake up, we feel different. We always feel different in the morning if we've had a good sleep. And so we want to make sure, like, if you're feeling burnt out, get to bed by 9:30 p.m., like non-negotiable, right? Get off your devices, anything that's going to disrupt or prevent you from falling asleep. Have your good sleep, wake up in the morning. I'm always like, don't have the coffee first, right? Even though you want to, have it after breakfast, because it will make a difference to the hormones, which will affect how you feel the rest of the day. Yeah, because caffeine stimulates, activates, stress response. And our stress hormones are highest in the morning. If you're waking up, your cortisol's rising, you have a coffee, it just goes up through the roof, and then your glucose levels are disrupted. And it just means that the rest of the day, you've set yourself up for this kind of roller coaster of energy and low moods and anxiety. So if you have breakfast first, caffeine later, limit the caffeine as well. And making sure that you put good food in, right? So they've found that cooking your meals at home is preventative against burnout.
Wow. That's so simple. It's so simple.
It is really simple. Eating out, it doesn't matter. They found that even if you go to really healthy restaurants, it's actually healthier to cook at home.
Wow.
Okay? So you can control the ingredients, the oils, because you go to a restaurant, it's tasty food, right? It's super rich. There's lots of stuff added to it. So it needs to you need to pull back and make it a little bit more simple and get the nutrition in. So just doing things like that will really make a difference, right? And it can be just as simple as get to bed early, have breakfast first before caffeine, and, have your lunch, something that's leftovers from the night before.
From that healthy meal you cooked.
From that healthy meal you cooked,
yeah. I love it. And so what about if we have a listener who is listening and they're like, I've already got that nailed. I am amazing. I'm exercising. I'm eating well. I'm sleeping right. I'm doing all of the things. And I am ready to really take some kind of powerful step to put me into peak performance. Obviously, they should call you. But what is something that they should be thinking about?
Well, then you kind of take that to the next level, right? So really looking at nutrition for peak performance, looking at what is the proteins, the carbs, and all those macros and even micronutrients that you need to get you to peak performance. So we all have the possibility of being at peak performance. There are things that pull us down, and nutritional deficiencies are one of those, right? And so making sure, proper gut health is really important for mental health. That the detoxification systems are working correctly, so there's no inflammation building up. Improving like weekend habits, not too much drinking, like really kind of optimizing their diet for peak performance. And then the other piece would really be the mental performance piece, right? So really looking at, well, what are the things that are your stressors? Like I will always ask my client, what are your triggers? What are the things that's recurring for you that comes up? Like, is it a financial thing in your business? Is it something with your family? Is it something in your relationship? Like, let's dive into that. Because that becomes the barrier then to peak performance, because your mind works so well to resolve problems. But if you're got the same problem all the time, it doesn't have the capacity to take you to peak performance. It doesn't have the capacity to create your life and build your business, like do the bigger things in life, because it's solving the problem that's at hand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So if you can look at what's the recurring problem, and that needs coaching around, right? To have a look at, well, what is it about that? Like to dive in a little bit deeper to find out your triggers. But the first thing I say to people is, what's the common thing that trips you up? What are the things that you commonly are worried about?
And it's so interesting because I think as business owners, I think we probably are lots of overachievers here. And you'd kind of subconsciously, the thing, right? That something keeps recurring, but instead of, getting help, we tend to just go, oh, why does, we kind of berate ourselves a little bit. Like, why does that keep happening? Which is why I think it's so valuable having a coach actually help you look at it from a different perspective and actually help you dive into that a little bit deeper.
Yeah, like, I mean, certainly I have lots of coaches. I have one coach now, but I've had two coaches for a long time. And all because I've seen things with them which I didn't see on my own.
Yeah.
And I was able to really move the needle, right? It was really made an impact to my personal life, to my relationship, to my business. And it just, I guess that it just accelerates the process. I believe that everyone can have their own insights of what they need to change and what they need for themselves. That's inbuilt in us.
Yeah.
But coaching accelerates that process.
Well, and I think it gets you, like we're talking about burnout to peak performance here. I think that, an athlete doesn't get from never having run a mile to winning the Olympic Games without coaches, without training. I think it's, we can get ourselves so far. And I love that you gave the examples of, there's some real basic things, right? And if we're not doing the basics, maybe start there.
Yeah.
But you are right. Like when we really want to accomplish something big, having a support network around us is so important.
Yeah, you need the right strategy, right? So, what about nutrition and peak performance is different to what I know about, nutrition and peak performance. What you know about influencer marketing, I don't know, that's for sure, right? So I'm not going to go, I could do it on my own. Well, I could, but it's going to take me, I don't know, a hell of a long time. And I'll probably make so many mistakes.
That is how I sell to people.
Yeah, right. But it
Totally.
is, because you're going to make so many mistakes along the way. And, my clients, so my CEO clients, they don't want to work it out. They just want me to tell them what to do. They just do this. They're happy. And it's easy for them, right? They just execute. And so you have to have the right strategy. So, we're not going to have that by looking up online on Google or whatever.
No. And I think where we started was it is different for everybody. Like you need somebody that has the expertise and knowledge to actually ask you the hard questions, do the tests, analyze what you're actually doing to set a strategy.
Yeah. So I have an online program called Bye-Bye Burnout, and that was developed because my strategy, I found that I was doing the same strategy for people, right? Same foundational work to get them out of burnout and back into this state where they've got more energy, they're waking up, they can exercise, they can run their businesses, they can, do all their responsibilities, sleep well, lose weight, feel really good. And the foundations were the same, right? And so it's, reducing stress hormones, repairing key systems, working on the mindset piece. Yeah. And so while everyone is unique and different, there are key things that you can do that will really make a huge difference. And in that program, I do talk about blood testing. I bring all of that into it because I want people to understand that they really have to, be their own, not doctor, but be their own
analyst
practitioner, because it's their body, right? They have to take care of it. And unfortunately, when we go to the doctor, the pathology tests are not showing optimal ranges, and there are things that will show up as markers which they won't address, which can mean that we stay in this place of burnout and anxiety and depression for a long time before getting a proper diagnosis. Yeah. So being able to understand your own blood work and what you need to do for your body, I think is really important.
Wow, I could not agree with you more. It's really interesting. I think that so many people struggle with so many different diagnoses, and I obviously connected with lots of other women in business, and I think women particularly struggle with certain health ailments, and it is so interesting watching people have to self-advocate, right? Like going to doctors and not getting answers. I think that I love that you say that, like, we have to be the advocate for ourselves. Like if we really want change, if we really want to, live our best life, work to our peak performance, have the best business that we, achieve our goals, all of those things, I don't think anyone else is coming to save us. We have to be that champion for ourselves. And I love that you go to the depth of the blood testing as well, because you're right. There's so many underlying things, that perhaps if you're doing all of the right things and not seeing success, what is it? What is that thing that's holding you back? And when you have all of the information, you can make an informed decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, we have been, I guess, indoctrinated for many years that when we're sick, we take it to the doctor.
Yeah.
put our health in the doctor's hands, right? And I
Mm.
just think there has to be responsibility taken back and really take charge of your own health and be,
Yes.
the owner and the one responsible for your health, no matter how you got there, right? No judgment on how you got there,
Yeah.
but that you take that responsibility and you do everything that you can to get yourself better and get yourself to a place where you're at optimal health.
Yeah. And I love that as well. Like, let's not judge ourselves. We've all done things,
No.
but it's never too late as well.
Yeah.
Like every day you wake up, it is an opportunity to start over. And if you decide that today is the day to change your life, yeah, it doesn't matter where you've come from. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. It just matters that you step up and take responsibility for yourself and own it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I always talk about in all of my stuff, I'm a naturopath. When I went through my burnout, I was living off caffeine and M&Ms, to get through the day because I
I
was
love
so
that.
tired. I
Yeah.
was having to have a nap on like a massage table that wasn't being used in the clinic, So
Yeah. Yeah.
I got to that place that was really bad. And so there's no judgment because we do the best
Mm.
that we can at the time. We really do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some things we miss and we don't have awareness. Like I didn't realize I was getting so tired. It would just kind of,
Mm.
I felt like it just crept up on me over time that I thought it was normal that to feel as tired as I did, but it's not
Mm.
normal, right? It's not normal
Mm.
to just get through the basics and not be able to do anything else during the day. It's not normal to want to just collapse on the couch when you get home, right?
Mm.
It's not normal to be irritable all the time and snapping at your partner, or if you've got kids and
Yeah.
you're wanting the day to be over so you can crawl back into bed. That's not normal.
Yeah.
It's got not because of age, it's not because of your business, right?
Yeah, but we blame that. But
Mm.
they're the words that come out of our mouth.
Yeah.
Your business is hard, or you've got to hustle and grind to make it a success, or I can't with the kids, or whatever it is. Like we do say those words, and unfortunately, I think our words sometimes dictate our reality,
Yeah.
and we don't actually take that step back and say, well, that's fine, but that's not the life I want for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I
Mm.
think, our words do dictate our reality. I think it's very interesting,
Yeah.
very telling what we say. So it's definitely
Yes.
something I listen to when my clients talk. I listen to their words that they're using because that's
Mm.
painting the picture. That's their reality.
Yeah, I read this great, I think it was like an Instagram post or something, but
Yeah.
it was this guy telling his story of his friend said to him, hey, how you going? And the guy was like, oh, I'm tired. And finally the friend said to him, you have been saying I'm tired every day for like the last year. No wonder you're tired. That's all you
Yeah.
talk about. I was like, yeah, it is. You just have to be very careful if you want, because you are painting this reality. And sometimes that is another one of the things that just stops us from moving into the life that we want.
Yep, absolutely. Agree.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, let's switch gears now. Let's talk about your business.
Mhm.
What do you think you've learned? So over the many years of moving from, obviously in clinic to, the way it is today, you've got courses, you're obviously doing the one-on-ones. What do you think's some of the biggest learnings for you as a business owner?
In which
Like,
area of business? I've
where
had
do
so
we
many learnings.
start?
Oh my goodness. I guess, okay, I think most of my learnings that, more recent is through this, I've transitioned. So I was in clinic for almost 10 years and I've done this for, 10 years. And so there was a gap in between. And so it's been a bit of a journey. So when I went to the online world, it was very different for me. I felt like I didn't know anything about business anymore.
Yeah.
Because, when you have a brick and mortar business, it's different, right? It's really different.
Yeah, totally.
So I think, I guess the online learning about marketing, I was really didn't like marketing at all. I thought it was just
A lot of business owners don't like the sales and marketing side. They don't like the, hey, everyone, buy from my business bit.
Yeah, it's really interesting because so I had coaching around that. So so I used to really not like marketing and it impacts your business. When I had a business coach, she was like, do all this. And I was like, oh, I hate it. It sounds so sleazy. It sounds so manipulative and blah, 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 right? And it held me back in my business. And I really wanted to find a way to fall in love with marketing because it would help me in my business, right? It helped me personally because I didn't like doing it. And then if I could enjoy doing it and then it would have an impact on my business, that would be amazing. And I found a way to just keep it like real, which was just talk to people about what they're struggling with.
Yes.
It's so simple. And that was really easy for me. And that's something I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. So if I could talk about, hey, if you're feeling this, do this. If you want to know more, come here.
Yeah.
You know, so I think keeping it more aligned to where you're at. That's what was my lesson with marketing. I felt like it had to look like everybody else's.
Yeah.
And there is strategies for sure. And the strategies work. I'm not going to deny that. But I think getting to that place where it's aligned with you was really important for me. And that's what really shifted things in my business.
That is so, I love that, because you're right. Like, you could just go and follow everyone else and do all of the things. And yes, some of them you throw in every now and again because they do work. Yeah. But I also think that is how you stand out. So finding that thing that lights you up. I love your fall in love with marketing. But like finding how you can fall in love with the process, you know, find the way that it connects with you so you can show up every day. That's a game changer. I love that, because you're right. If you just have the strategy document with all the tactics and all the things you're supposed to tick off, who does it anyway? Like, you just put that on the desk and go, yeah, I'll get to that tomorrow. But you're right. When you do find a way to make it connect with you and why you started the business in the first place, I actually think it connects so much better with consumers anyway.
Yeah. Because otherwise the tactics are just empty. They're just soulless. They're just, you know,
totally.
process. Yeah. So yeah, I think having it aligned to what works for you, that you can communicate your message of your service, your product, your brand, whatever it is, it has to be aligned. It's just more enjoyable. And with the love of it, with the enjoyment of it, comes better results.
Yes.
Right? It just does. Yeah. Like, you can't, it's like, if you hate cooking, then what are the meals that you're going to cook? They're not going to taste that good, right?
Totally. Yeah.
If you hate marketing or you hate something in your business, you're just not going to get the best results. So I could see that if I fell in love with it, which, you know, now it's not a it's not a thing for me that I have any kind of thinking over, right? It's just, I enjoy connecting with people when I do the things that I do, right? So that's probably one. I guess the other one would be there's so many lessons in my business.
I know. I know. Put you on the spot and you're like, okay, I have a whole book of lessons.
I think testing, optimizing. So we always have this idea of what will work. A lot of things don't work. That was actually quite a big lesson for me. Some things you do in business will not work out.
What?
And actually,
it hurts so much though.
Yes. And when it hurts so much, it holds you back so much.
Yes.
That was for me. I couldn't get things moving on the online. I just couldn't understand why it wasn't moving. And I made all these assumptions about myself, my business, my product, and everything. And really, the truth of the matter is, some things you do won't work out.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It is okay, because there's a million things you could do. So just try another one.
And the thing is, if that's not okay for you, you won't do the millions of other things, because you're really bogged down in, why isn't it working for me?
Yes.
Why is it so hard? What am I doing wrong? What other thing do I need to add into my business? Do I need another 3 coaches? Do I need another 10, strategies, whatever? So that keeps you stuck. So I really learned that not everything you do will work out, and that's okay. You move on to the next, and you move on to the next, and you give it everything.
Yes.
Meaning you don't go to a point.
Time, and a little bit of time as well. I always
like, you don't get to step 3 and go, I don't think this is, I can already see it's not going to work, I'm going to pull it. No, go to the full, go all the way, and then do your assessment. So for me, testing, understanding the power of testing in all areas of my business, to get, the results that, in your business, right? And then from there, you optimizing for me is like doing that extra 1% in everything to get, by the end of it, you've got an extra 10% there, or do you know what I mean? More optimized, you get an extra 20%. So it's just a game changer for the results.
That 1% rule is literally my favorite, because not only, like exactly like you say, it compounds, but for me, it's easy. It's like, stop thinking about the empire and just think about like how to tweak one tiny thing. And I go, oh, that's easy, I can do that. And then the next day, oh, that's easy, I can do that. And then, oh, that's easy. And then all of a sudden you've done a year's worth of all of these tiny, tiny things that have compounded, and you have taken a leap.
Yeah, I think The optimizing, because a lot of people don't like to optimize, and I'll be honest, it's like if you wrote a book and then you'd have to rewrite it to optimize it or make it better. That just, I don't like that process. And I
Yes,
do it
sounds
in all my work, but I
horrible.
do it because I love seeing the results from it. So whether it be one of my programs, constantly optimizing just to get even better results, right? Then I love to see that.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that so much. Okay, we could talk all day, but last question for you. Our listener is a phenomenal woman in business. Reflecting on your time in business, what is one piece of advice that you would give her to win today?
To win? In what way?
Win the day. So just finish the day feeling accomplished, feeling successful, feeling proud of herself in business.
I mean, oh God, that's goes so many ways.
Or maybe one piece of advice that you've gotten over the years or that holds true for you in business today.
I think just be happy with where you get at the end of each day, right? Just feeling, so that sense of accomplishment, like most of the time we overestimate what we can do in a day. And we underestimate, we underestimate what we could do in, say, 5 years.
Yes.
So at the end of each day, sometimes you can look at your list and think, oh, I didn't get done what I wanted to get done. And that's actually pretty normal because there's so many things that arise during the day that you don't anticipate. And so I think getting to the end of each day and just feeling kind of at peace with what you've achieved in that day, and then moving on to the next without taking all of that stuff into the next day.
Yeah, without that judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, every woman I speak to, and me and for myself, it's like, I wish I was just, if I could just get all this done, right? That doesn't, I don't think that exists. I've never heard of it existing for anyone.
I say that to myself all the time.
I don't know anyone. And I work with some really successful women, right? That run multiple big companies and have families and do amazing things, but they don't ever get to that place where they go, I'm ahead of everything now. Like they're always behind. They always this sense of feeling behind, which to me means that actually you're right at the right place. Because the mind is always throwing up all these things that we have to do. So getting really clear about, I talk to my clients, well, what is the priority? Like, what are the things that you need to do? Either that's, going to impact your revenue or, there's a deadline that you can't miss. Like make that the number one priorities and everything else goes later.
Yeah. Or gets delegated.
Or delegated. Yeah.
Amazing. Vesna, thank you so much for sharing your insights and wisdom with the Spark community. That was incredible. I have notes and I'm going to make some vegetables. So I appreciate you. That was incredible.
Amazing. Thank you so much.